The beauty of nature and the forever of art? Or is it the beauty of art and the forever of nature? I can never keep those things straight. But we are here today for a poem that might have nothing to do with any of those things, or it might have everything to do with all of those things. It just depends on how you read it. That's poetry. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I am Adrian Ford, and we're here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, now coursing towards 700 videos strong, and number two being 30 must-read poems. Each 30 must-read poems video includes three different sections. Number one, a brief biography of the poet at hand. Number two, a short run through of the types of poetry that poet writes. And number three, an analysis of the poem itself. So, who was John Keats? John Keats was born October 31st, 1795, in Moorgate, London. For reference, 1795 is a year that was fairly quiet everywhere in the world, with the exception of France, where, among other things, a young nationalist leader and future resident of Elba began to distinguish himself. Keats' father, George, was an ostler, or a stableman, taking care of horses. His mother, Frances, took care of the couple's children. In 1804, Keats' father fell from a horse and died while returning home after visiting the boys at school. 6 years later, his mother died of tuberculosis, and the children went to live with their grandmother. The same year, Keats would begin to study under Thomas Hammond to be a surgeon and an apothecary. And in 1815 he became a medical student at Guy's Hospital, where he would work prepping patients and assisting in surgery. Though he seemed very fit for this work and excelled early, his passion was for poetry, and his work left less and less time for writing, and the young man felt letters leaving him. Still, in 1816 Keats became a licensed apothecary. It seems the official title may have been a bit of a breaking point for him, and that same year his sonnet O Solitude was published in the Examiner. It was the first of several publications that year. The next year, in company with a growing reputation, a volume of his poetry titled simply Poems was published. It was not the success that he had probably hoped for, but it was progress. He changed publishers and got an advance towards his next volume. Working with this new publisher, Keats was introduced to many of the emerging talents on their roster. It was invigorating for Keats, who would swear off his medical profession in short order, and in early 1817 he moved to Hampstead. There he assisted in taking care of his brother, Tom, who had tuberculosis. But his own health was failing as well. And after falling ill again while taking care of his brother, it is thought he may have initially become infected with tuberculosis. Tom would die on December of that year. The combination of emotions running wild and sudden free time may have led to Keats' Annus Mirabilis in 1819, when he wrote Ode to a Grecian Urn, Ode to a Nightingale, Ode to Psyche, Ode on Indolence, and Ode to Melancholy, as well as to Autumn, Lamia, Isabella, and the Eve of St. Agnes, leading to his collection Lamia, Isabella, and the Eve of St. Agnes, and Other Poems, to be published in 1820. 1819 was also when he wrote La Belle Dame sans Merci and the play Otho the Great. 1819 and 1820 would see Keats' literary output explode, and several love interests would arise, but quickly declining health tortured him. Convinced of his own demise, Keats left for Rome, He would make it to Rome, but his condition was so poor, and owing that his diagnosis was attributed to mental exertion at the time, Keats was restless in his living hours. In addition to being ill, he seems to have also been hopeless, and referred to his remaining life as a posthumous existence. On February 23rd, 1821, John Keats died of tuberculosis, aged 25. John Keats is probably best known for writing odes. So, what is an ode? A formal, often ceremonious lyric poem that addresses and often celebrates a person, place, thing, or idea. Its stanza forms vary. The Greek or Pindaric ode was a public poem usually set to music that celebrated athletic victories. English odes written in the Pindaric tradition include Thomas Gray's The Progress of Poesy, a Pindaric ode, and William Wordsworth's ode, Imitations of Immortality, from reflections of early childhood. Horatian odes, after the Latin poet Horace, were written in quatrains in a more philosophical, contemplative manner. See Andrew Marvell's Horatian Ode upon Cromwell's return from Ireland. The Sapphic Ode consists of quatrains, 3 11-syllable lines, and a final 5-syllable line, unrhyming but with strict meter. See Algernon Charles Swinburne's Sapphics. The odes of the English Romantic poets vary in stanza form. They often address an intense emotion at the onset of a personal crisis, or celebrate an object or image that leads to revelation. My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and Leithwards had sunk. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but by being too happy in thine happiness, that thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep-delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance, a provincial song, and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful Hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. Fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known, the weariness, the fever, and the fret, here, where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last gray hairs, where youth grows pale and spectre thin, and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow, and leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his pards, but on viewless wings of poesy. Though the dull brain perplexes and retards, already with thee. Tender is the night, and haply the Queen Moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry fays. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs, But in embalmed darkness guess each sweet wherewith the seasonable month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild, white hawthorn, and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid-May's eldest child, the coming musk rose full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. Darkling, I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death, called him soft names in many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to cease upon the midnight with no pain, while thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy. Still, wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain, to thy high requiem become a sod? Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird, no hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown, perhaps the selfsame song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth when, sick for home, she stood in tears amid the alien corn, the same that oft times hath charmed magic casements, opening on the foam of perilous seas, in fairy lands forlorn. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my sole self. Adieu, the fancy cannot cheat so well as she is famed to do, deceiving elf. Adieu, adieu, thy plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, and now 'tis buried deep in the next valley glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Do I wake or sleep? Now, this is a very long poem, so I figure it might do us some good to have a brief recap of kind of what is going on narratively here. And I'm going to be very honest with you, in addition to being a long poem, this is a poem with which I personally struggle. It's hard for me to kind of read meaning into and out from the lines and keep it all straight in my head. So I do have all of my notes written out pretty much word for word with what I want to say. So if I'm not right here during this video, I'm down here. It is not me texting or anything like that. It's me trying to keep things straight in my head with what we're talking about. So what is going on in Ode to a Nightingale? We have our speaker who is traipsing about, and he hears the song of a nightingale. He hears a nightingale singing, and he is overcome. This proves to be an emotional moment for him. This proves to be maybe a transcendent moment for him. And he muses that the nightingale is actually immortal. This is the point from which I want to make this discussion about this poem. The immortal world of the nightingale. It is eternal. That beauty, that song, eternal. And he wishes to leave behind his human suffering. He wishes to exit the mortal plane of humankind towards the eternal world of the bird. It might be that it is the immortal world of art that talking point is often evoked with this. The bird is singing. It is singing a song. We love to hear that melody, right? That melody of the bird. I'm going to get into a little bit of a different point with this, but that paper, if you're here to write a paper, that paper is certainly there to be written, that what Keats is doing is trying to transcend the mortal plane with the immortal world of art. His creation being the ode itself, his creation being the poetry that he wrote. He was very sickly, right? Died very young. So maybe those are his motivating factors for having written this poem, but leaving the mortal plane for the world of art is there to have an argument made for it. But I think it is something slightly different, hoping to join that bird in eternal mirth. By the time our speaker is oded out, the bird is gone. Story of my life. And our speaker questions if it was all a dream. So, the point from which I want to launch this discussion is the idea of the immortal world of the bird. I'm going to keep it as a bird instead of the immortal world of art because I don't know. I think that's there to be read in, right? But I think there are alternative readings to be had here. And I think that as opposed to the world of art, what our speaker is really looking to is happiness. What our speaker is really looking to is escape. I think that is more in tune with what is actually being portrayed in this poem than the world of art. But it is being channeled through the bird, the nightingale. The immortal world of the bird, the immortal world of the nightingale. Birds, however, are extremely fragile creatures, very fragile creatures. Their beauty is not forever. So even if you want to say that it is the world of art, in that argument, what you have to do is make the poem about the song, not the nightingale. But even then, can we say, especially before the world of recording, that song is forever? Song was the most fleeting of art forms. If you had a play, even, you would have had the script from which to operate. So that play could be witnessed by future generations. The poetry, obviously, could be written down and taken forth, novels, short stories, etc. Paintings, right? All of these different forms of art. But the song, before we could put it in, well, I guess sort of like a play, it's fleeting in that way, but you still have to have a song. You can see this from, and I hate to take these sort of perhaps mid-wit trails through what I'm talking about. Perhaps this is a stupid argument to have, but all of these, the current fad, well, it's not a current fad, really. I'm backtracking, but the fad of redoing someone else's song. Now, really, this has gone on forever, right? You look at the 50s and all of the songs that were big in the 50s, etc. A lot of those were from the 30s and the 20s, and they were just being redone by people who made them famous. So really, perhaps, anyway, what am I doing here? What we're talking about is the song being temporary. It is only the singer of the song that makes the song he or she makes at that moment. Now we can record them and listen to them later, but that's not where we were in this poem. Part of the beauty or the impetus behind the urgency inherent to the beauty of the bird's song is that it will end. You've heard this argument before. Beauty, what is beautiful is not because it is forever, it's because it is for now. It is not forever. Beauty is not forever. We should appreciate beauty because of its fleeting nature. A nightingale, for example, will live about 1 to 5 years on average in the wild, but they can live up to about 8 years. They've been documented to live up to about 8 years. Nature is brutal. John Keats would have known this. John Keats would have known about the unforgiving nature of nature. So here's a question. We're talking about the immortal world of the nightingale, which is really not so immortal. In fact, if you've got a nightingale in the wild, it might be around about a year before, poof, somebody's kitty gets it. Pause. The nightingale, the immortal world of the nightingale. The nightingale does not have an immortal world. The nightingale has an incredibly fleeting world. The song of the nightingale is incredibly fleeting. But why do nightingales sing? Why do nightingales have such a beautiful song? You know this, everybody knows this, to attract a mate. Interesting, isn't it? Talking about the immortal world of the nightingale, which is extremely fleeting. But to attract a mate is to rather aid the nightingale in reproduction, having kids, baby nightingales. The next generation, children, baby nightingales here, being the only hope that any of us have at something like reaching immortality. So, in a roundabout way, even if what we're talking about is the brutal nature of nature, the brutal factoid that a nightingale in the wild lives between 1 and 5 years, even if we're talking about that, we can come back to the fact that the nightingale's song to attract a mate aids the nightingale in reaching immortality. The nightingale's song reaches out into the ether for another nightingale. Here, the song has caught not just another nightingale, but a poet as well. So this nightingale song has perhaps reached immortality in more ways than one. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers if you find yourself here by chance, but not design. Literature is the only thing that I talk about on the channel, making multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.